I think it's important to have the Aboriginal art included in the curriculum because the stories of Aboriginal people are in the art. That's always been an expression, a form of expression.
I believe that it's really important for especially children to learn the tradition, the different art forms, etc. because I believe that the traditional ways are slowly being forgotten.
I'm very glad that it's in the curriculum now because all the history, the art, everything there you're learning from it.
And to have that shared into the curriculum with other people that may not necessarily know what the art, how it impacts the people, and that it is very much part of the people. Like, it's a good thing to have it.
So we are going to start today by looking at some of the woodland style native art. And Mr. Magnusson has produced this painting in the style of woodland. And that's Mr. Magnusson's version of it. And here is another example of woodland style art on the box. And this is another example. Mr. Magnusson got this from a friend in Sioux Lookout. He was visiting a school up there last week and they gave him this piece. All good teachers start with an idea, and definitely teachers in Ontario are going to know this, that this is a focus of the Ministry of Education, is to embed more Aboriginal education into what we do in all courses. Art class is a natural starting place. It's far easier to start in an art class than it would be in a math class or a science class, for example. So the Ministry of Education has more and more and more resources available, and certainly having the connection to a special assignment teacher in their school is an excellent place to start in terms of connecting with resource people like our Ella, the elder, or the artists or the mentors that you've met in our classroom here today. So a teacher doesn't need to have their knowledge themselves, but to reach out and invite guests into their room and start that learning path themselves. Welcome to our class again today, Ella. The gifts you've brought to us are many, and as you can see, the work we've accomplished with you is tremendous.
We had elders in and mentors, and the two classes worked together for this project. The students got together and did some appliques. They were given the different fabric and were instructed how to stitch and how to put things together, and some of them have done beadwork, and they're going to go into a larger quilt when they were done. They'll combine beading with the applique and the quilt. A teepee was brought in that had been made out of the quilting squares, and the students got to see where the projects would go from there.
Now, Ella, you've been a beader. How long have you beaded like this? Did you learn from your own grandmother?
From my mom.
From your mom.
Yeah, I learned at a very young age to sew and bead, and when I was younger we had to sew everything, with even my clothes and stuff like that. So it's been with me for most of my life, I guess I'd say, because my mom used to love sewing it. That's how I picked it up from her.
And Ella realizes the importance of elders reaching back and fostering that pride in culture that many students have lost. And so it's that elder's role is so important. And the more we can engage an elder, the better. So we tasked Ella with that end result, that she would then accept the beaded work from the students, and then with love and tradition, applique them to the quilt.
The beadwork has definitely opened new opportunities for me. At first, it was very difficult to get the hang of it. We learned the Ojibwe tradition style to do it. So I found that beading has a very calming effect. When you're beading it can just take hours away. It makes hours fly by. So I think that I'm definitely going to continue with it.
I find it just like everybody else said, relaxing, comforting. Like when I feel stressed out, I'll just go in my room by myself and start beading, and then I'll be surprised of how much I got done, and I'll feel better.
As I look at this beautiful beaded quilt that you've worked on with Ella and we've made here, what strikes me most is the color.
Well, in this process, the The stencils were cut out by the mentor class. They took traditional symbols, circles, they laid things out, and there's talk about balance and color and how those harmonize together. So some of the students really did a nice job in picking color choices. This student really, really worked hard and did some. He still has some more stitching to do, but he really got into how he did the overlapping and cutting, and did some amazing stitching work.
So when I look at this and I think about each piece represents your work and your time and your thoughts and your energy, it's gone into a very, very beautiful piece that will make people stop and look at it and think. It will touch people's hearts. So Kanisha, point out the piece that's yours on here, I forget. Now look at that. I like the clear silvery beads that you've used on there. So can you tell me what you were thinking when you put that together, or why you chose that design, or?
Well, the white I chose because the spirit, and I always learned watching movies and reading books of how when someone dies, there's always a spirit there that you can look to, and sometimes in your mind you might have a spirit there that you can see. And the blue, I thought of the water, of the clearness, and just relaxing.
I love that story. That's fantastic.
I felt it in this classroom over a number of times, just coming in and out with the artists and working with Ella. You could just feel that positive energy and also the spirit of the work. And I mean that in a very broad sense. When they did the collaged art, the power of the images was just so incredible that they really got it,
The students have really gotten engaged with the projects that we've been working on. I think they love the idea of the finished product. They see the accomplishment, they see the end task, the task leading to what they have. So they always have something concrete. They seem to not really realize that they're getting some theory and history involved, and they're just all excited about the creation aspect.
We could have chosen painting, we could have chosen any form of artwork, but beading is something that Ella brought to us. And what I know from research is Aboriginal youth learn best in very kinesthetic ways. They like the hands-on, and a project like beading or like the collage books offer a differentiated approach as well. There was no one way to do what we did.
What I pay particularly attention to is trying to cultivate an atmosphere where it almost reflects ceremonial.
I think it does have a ceremony, it just kind of like brings, Native people together, and it's really interesting. And, there's people out here that are different and they look at you differently, but then when you're together with somebody else, you just feel like you belong there.
So often by bringing an elder in, bringing food in, sharing a story, bringing my drum, really being present, really tuning into the energy of the room and the individuals in them.
Over the few years that I've been teaching this Native Arts course, I've seen a lot of development in the Aboriginal students. Many of them are experience aspects of their culture that they have not dealt with before. Seeing their success in art is giving them such a confidence boost. Many of the students are not as successful in some of the other courses and find sort of a haven and a safe area in the arts courses.
This is my box. I created it. I created a turtle. The designs inside is Haida art, and it has different designs such as split U's and ovoids. And I used different colors, traditional colors such as black, white, yellow, and white. The white represents the elders. The black represents the adults. The red represents the adolescents, and the yellow represents children.
Every time I think of art, I always want to do flowers. It's just an intention. I grew up seeing my grandma and my mom always beading flowers, and like Steve said, that's kind of all it is. It's just about nature and floral things, like Ella was talking about. And I think that's pretty much why I always choose to draw flowers or sketch them.
Steve, I'd like you to talk to me a little bit about the importance of an eagle feather, because you know about this.
Well, from what I learned in my powwow ever since when I started, eagle feather, you can't just, once you see it on the ground, you can't just pick it up, they said. You gotta lay down tobacco on it, then say a prayer for one reason. Then you can pick it up. But it's not yours, you're only carrying it until you can give it away to someone that's passed on, someone that needs healing, then you give them that eagle feather after.
So look at that tremendous amount of teaching and knowledge you have about what someone else might think was a simple image of a feather. So that's what I'm trying to get at with the Woodland style art. Assessment for learning can take many different ways. Sometimes it can be a formalized piece that we can kind of touch base. It's a checkup. How are they doing today? But it definitely is more conversational in nature, and it doesn't have to be formalized. It's just simply checking in. How are we doing? Assessment for learning can happen at the beginning of the class. Check that they know what you did yesterday before we move on, that sort of thing. Because assessment of learning shouldn't just happen at the very last day and that's the end of it, because everyone gets there at different speeds. Who knows what good art is? So it's a challenge for us, it always is. But we know students who have engaged, who get it. We're moving towards that place where they can speak about their learning, where they can share their learning. One of the pillars of the urban Aboriginal education strategy is mentorship.
The mentor role in this project was to be of support to the students, to be able to help them express what through their art.
I think that me and Nicole, we're at a closer age level to the students, and we build a rapport with them where they see us more of a friend and authoritative figure.
It's one of the young women who has been working as a mentor in this particular project was a former student of mine. And she's in her early 20s now, and when she was a teenager, we picked her as one of the 25 most at-risk students in our building. So we pulled in the students who were not attending school and were demonstrating all kinds of very risky behavior, and tried to re-engage them with school and tried to help them process some of the difficulties that were getting in the way of their school success. And Serene was in that class. And as I recall, she gave us a run for our money. Very, very reluctant, very, lots of barriers. It's very gratifying for me to see her now after all these years and to see her so successful and listen to her interview about what her plans are for law and advocacy for Aboriginal people. So if that's a marker of the advancement that we've made, perhaps, that we allow our students that pride, we've come a long way, and as has Serene. So for her to be a mentor is fantastic because she's able now to reach back to the young people and show them a path to take and show them her success, and it's excellent.
When we first started coming here, some of the students were very withdrawn, didn't talk to us really, and hardly participated. But as time went on, they started talking to us. They became more open and honest in their work, and they started confiding in stuff in us as students too.
I hope that later on that they'll remember somebody was nice to them, and took the time to just be friendly. Because that's what I remembered with those people when I was a teenager. Even though, I had my challenges and struggles, I remember those people the most, the ones that were friendly and that took the time to just talk to me. And so that's what I'm hoping that, they'll remember. And that's what I get out of it, just knowing that, at least I tried.
We're very, very proud of the accomplishment that we've witnessed in the young Aboriginal youth.
To be honest, I feel like about 300 times more confident than I was about years ago and last year. I feel better. I feel more. I feel like that I've learned to let my grandfather and them go already. and continue on with my life.
30 years ago when I was in grade 10, we certainly would have never studied Aboriginal literature. And here you are in a classroom with all of the classrooms studying Aboriginal literature with Aboriginal authors and an Aboriginal artist in the classroom. That's groundbreaking.
I believe through the art that other non-Aboriginal children and Aboriginal kids can really relate to each other. They can understand their point of view, they can understand the other points of view, they can realize the importance of the art, and it creates a bond between the two.
And to see them go with that and the excitement level, the attendance has gone up. Students come to the class, they're excited to be at the class, they come early to class, and it's made a big difference.
We owe a debt to the Aboriginal people in our province. As an educator, I speak about myself. We haven't done the job that we need to do, and the proofs in the dropout rates and the massive learning gap there is between Aboriginal kids and non-Aboriginal kids. So we'd best do something different, and this is definitely a starting place.
And that's what art class is. It's fun. You could express yourself in terms of anything. You could go beyond reality and start drawing. It's like you could put words on a paper, but instead it's a picture of words.
The work that needs to continue is being able to support that movement, that growth, where Aboriginal students feel that their classroom is a place where they can feel safe enough to be themselves. So it's a long journey, but I think it's possible.